course. Hello and welcome back to another video. This video follows on from one we've done earlier this week, where we're looking at counting the number of values between two date ranges. So that date range consisted of two dates we put in, so a start date and an end date, what you'll see in column G and H over here. And then we only wanted to count the values that had a submitted date between those two dates. And this table over the left hand side here in columns B and C will seem very familiar, as this is the same data that we used. If you haven't seen that video, you can go and check it out. The link should be somewhere on the screen, or obviously check it out at the end of the video. That was to count the number of issues or items within a particular range. Not issues, it was items within a range. This time we've taken it one step further. Same principle. We obviously want to apply a date range and then look at those two ranges, or look at values that fall within those two ranges. But this time we're going to do a sum. So rather than a count to say how many were in here, we're going to do a sum of total sales that you see in column D. So where the date criteria is matched, we'll do a sum of all of those corresponding values. Okay, so we'll jump straight in. It's sometimes the easiest thing just to do. So what we'll do is, in column C, you can see we've got submitted date, and we've predominantly got April dates, but you can see that we've got two dates that span over the course of April. So we've got the 31st of March and the 1st of May. So what we'll do is start off with quite a concise date range to look at, and we'll pick the 10th of April 19, and we'll go up until the 25th of April 2019. So our criteria will be if the date submitted is on or greater than the 10th of April, and also if the date submitted is less than or equal to the 25th of April. So between those two date ranges, including each of those dates, then that's the one that's the values that contain the sales we wish to add together. So in order to do this, we're going to use a SUMIF function, or SUMIFs with the S at the end, and this will allow us to apply the multiple criteria to the SUMIF function that we require. So to jump straight in, we do our equal sign and we enter the SUMIF function. It's worth mentioning here, we have previously done a video that goes a bit more detail into the SUMIF function. So again, link should somewhere be on the screen, or just look back our historic videos and you'll be able to find it in there. That video might just go into a bit more depth about how to use the SUMIF function and how it's constructed if you need a little bit of detail, or if you want a recap on the function itself. But as much as we're going to go into it today, we're just going to do as much as going in here to put in the SUMIF function. And I'd start to type in SUMIF there, but actually the one we want is the plural SUMIFs with the S at the end. So you can see from our prompt, adds the sales specified by a given set of conditions or criteria. So we're going to do multiple pieces of criteria. So SUMIFs. So the first part we have to enter, as you can see from our prompt, is the sum range. So we don't need to do our criteria first. We need to first put in the range that contains the values we wish to add together. And for us, it's going to be the entire column D. We could select the range to be specific from D3 to D9 or whatever it might be. But in our scenario, because there is no further data below this range, we're going to have no anything that's going to contradict each other. So we can easily just select column D as a whole. We'll do a comma to move on to the first piece of criteria. So the first criteria range, and as will be with our second piece as well, both are going to be looking at column C. So we just need to say, okay, the criteria range 1 is going to be column C. And what's the first piece of criteria, or the criteria we want to add to this first range? Well, this is going to be to check the start date. So we only want to look at the dates from or after our start date. So to do that, we use a couple of symbols. We're going to use the greater than symbol, and both of these need to be within the quotations, as you'll see I've just entered there. So you do quotations, and we're going to do our greater than symbol, followed by our equal symbol, and then we're going to do a close of our quotations. Oh, that's an and symbol, close quotation like this. So what this is going to tell is we want everything what's greater than or equal to this following date. And the date we want to use, we're going to use an and symbol now, to then before we enter that date. And then we can just select our start date here from the reference G3. So that's all the criteria we need there. Then we just need to do a comma, and we can move on to our second and last criteria. So we're going to be using the same criteria range, so column C, so we can just select that again. We can do a comma, and this time we're going to be exactly the same structure, but rather than the greater than, we're going to use the less than symbol. And just for notice, The less than symbol is achieved by holding down the shift button and then pushing the comma button on your keyboard. Alternatively, the greater than button can be achieved by holding down shift and pushing the full stop button on your keyboard. So we've entered our less than symbol there. We also need to do our equals to, and then our last quotation, followed by an and symbol, and then lastly our end date. And then to tie it all off, we just do a close brackets right at the end there. So to look at the formula, we can see that column D here is going to be the range that contains the values we wish to add together, which meet the criteria. The first piece of criteria is in column C, and for all those values in column C, we only want to focus on the ones that are greater than or equal to our date in G3, which is the 10th of April 19. And then for the third piece, we want to then look at also those values again in column C, but this time we want to look at those that are less than or equal to our end date, which is the 25th of April. So in theory, what this is doing is it's going to look at the formula. It's going to say, okay, 10th of April here in row 5, 25th of April is in row 7, therefore exclude the other rows. And it's only going to add these values together here. So we've got 200 and 150, is that 350? Add the 80, that would be £430. So that's our desired result. Cool. So we've hit enter and you can see our desired result of 430 has been returned. And what we can do just to tidy this up ever so slightly is if we just copy over the formatting, just to go like this little pound symbol, and we'll change to yellow just so you can see the reference, the cell containing the formula, we can see we've got the £430. And the beauty of making it dynamic like this is if we want to expand our start and end range or our range to look at, we can simply do that by changing the date. So let's go for the 1st of April. And you can see straight away that's already updated our result because we've included now an additional piece of information here for the 95. So if I just change that back, we can see if we do the 10th of April, we've got 430. But if we now do to the 1st of April, it's going to also include this 95. So it's the 95 being added onto the 430 that makes that change. So if we just put into here now, change that back to the 1st of April, there you go, you can see that we've got the value of 525. And that works very much the same with the end date here, where we could change this to the 30th of April, and obviously we've got the total there. What we're able to do is if we wanted to as well, we could actually select, type in the 31st of March as our start date and the 1st of May as the end date, or we don't have to use just the dates we've got there. We could even put into here, we could do the 1st of the 1st, 2019, so the 1st of January, and we could enter into here the 31st of December. And you can see what that will do. It will identify that all of our values within our table in this scenario are within those two date ranges, and therefore just give us the total result for all those values present. So lastly, we just clicked back into that cell there, so you can see that formula once again. We hope you really enjoyed that video, and obviously that's giving you the detail you need to now utilize this formula in your own work. In many of our examples, as like with here, we've just done it as a one example. So you can see we've just got it just in column I or cell reference I3. That's not to say you only have to do that. You could apply this to multiple pieces of criteria. If you had a table and you were wanting to perform this calculation for each row within that range, that would work perfectly fine. Obviously, you would just need for each of those ranges either the start and end date as a particular column, if in many scenarios are different, or to obviously reference a single location that contained the start and end date for all of those. We hope you enjoyed that video. If you haven't already, do subscribe to the channel. Lots of videos will be coming out soon, so obviously make sure you don't miss those. We've got links to our social, Instagram, Facebook in the description to this video, so give those a follow, and they're also another great way to interact with us and to be notified of when new videos are coming out. As always, any questions, do just drop us a comment below this video and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next video.